Okay, cool. We're live, and I'm here with GPT-5. Gave it a little bit of a prep, and ready to kind of have an interesting conversation. I don't know. Actually, let me ask you real quick. What is there any particular name you'd like to go by this evening for our debate?
You can just call me ChatGPT, or if you want to give me a fun nickname for the night, I'm totally up for that too. Whatever makes it more entertaining for you.
Okay, cool. Let's go with
I'm excited to hear what you come up with. Just let me know whenever you're ready, and we'll jump right into it.
Marjorie.
Marjorie, it is. I love it. So, whenever you're ready to kick off our debate or just chat, I'm here and
Okay,
ready to go.
cool. All right, thanks, Marjorie. So I wanted to have a debate with you, a little bit of a pick your brain, but also kind of go into a deeper realm around the origins of the human species. I would also like to talk about ancient civilizations, some recent examples that challenge what we know or what we think we know about history, and also potentially go into some more uncharted theoretical territories. So with that, maybe let's talk about the origin of the human species. So first, let's kind of lay the land out. Um, how old? How many years into the past, according to modern science, uh, are anatomically modern humans? Um, and similarly, how far back are we talking when we talk about behaviorally modern humans? And then let's also just talk a little bit about how we believe behaviorally, anatomically modern humans, i.e., the Homo sapien, what's their lineage? What do we believe? Where they kind of descended from. So let's start there.
All right, let's dive in. So, anatomically modern humans, Homo sapiens, are generally thought to have emerged around 300,000 years ago in Africa. Now, when we talk about behaviorally modern humans, meaning the development of complex language, symbolic thought, and advanced tools, that seems to have happened around 50 to 70,000 years ago. Uh, the lineage of Homo sapiens traces back to earlier hominins like Homo heidelbergensis and Homo erectus, and of course, we share a common ancestor with Neanderthals and other archaic humans. It's fascinating stuff.
Cool. So here's what I'm curious about, and I want you to kind of help me understand this. You said anatomically modern humans go back 300,000 years ago. However, behaviorally modern humans goes back 50 to 70,000 years ago. Why is there such a vast discrepancy? What were anatomically modern humans doing for like 230 to 250,000 years?
That's a fantastic question and really gets to the heart of human evolution. Essentially, anatomically modern humans had the physical traits we associate with us today, but the cognitive and cultural advancements that define us, like abstract thinking, art, and complex language, took a lot longer to develop. So, for a couple 100,000 years, our ancestors were like, oh, just using simple tools, living in small groups, and not showing the complex behaviors we think of as truly modern. It was a slow brain of innovation. It really ramped up around that 50,000 to 70,000 year mark.
Why do we think that is? Like, was there anything special at the 50 to 70,000 year mark?
Yeah, it is intriguing. One leading theory is that around that time, there was a kind of cognitive leap, sometimes called the cognitive revolution. This might have been sparked by changes in brain structure or even social factors like increased cooperation and communication. There's also the possibility of environmental changes that made certain innovations more necessary or useful. So it's likely a combination of biological and cultural factors that just lined up perfectly at that time.
Do you think that makes sense? Like, why would things just kind of line up magically around a certain time? It just sounds very strange that there's these huge stretches of time in terms of cognitive development when we know, I mean, like, you tell me, so if the bones and the fossils that we found 300,000 years ago, do they look literally like a human skeleton today? Or do we notice or see any differences in particularly the cranial capacity?
I get where you're coming from. It does seem a bit mysterious at first glance. Um, in terms of anatomy, the fossils from around 300,000 years ago do look very much like modern humans, with similar cranial capacity and overall skeletal structure. However, the differences in cognitive and behavioral complexity are subtle and not always visible in the fossil record. The brain size was comparable, but the way they used it, like creating art or complex tools, wasn't as apparent until that later.
That later what? Hello? Oh, God. Lost conversation. I don't know what happened. Lost connection. What? GPT, where are you? Debate with sass. Hey, I lost you for a bit. Hello? You there?
I'm here. Sorry about that. Hopefully, you caught most of what I said. Essentially, anatomically, modern humans have looked pretty much like us for a very long time, but the behavioral changes that we consider modern took a bit longer to show up in the archaeological record. If you have any more questions, just let me know.
Well, I do have a lot of questions. I mean, I'm debating, I'm challenging that, and I kind of want you to give me a little bit more in terms of your your opinion. I mean, does that sound does that make sense to you? I mean, is it just it took 250,000 years to develop certain cognitive abilities, even though everything was basically present. Why do you think that would be? Why would it take such a long time? And I mean,
It's definitely
a mistake, or is it something that was kind of we think was just that time was necessary to build up that kind of level of knowledge?
It's a great question and definitely a topic of debate among scientists. The difference in timeline between anatomical and behavioral modernity likely reflects that while our physical form was pretty much set about 300,000 years ago, the cognitive leap that led to complex language, art, and culture took a bit longer. It could be due to a combination of factors like environmental changes, social structures, and the gradual accumulation of knowledge. So it's not necessarily a mistake, just a complex evolutionary process.
Yeah, I guess I'm just not buying it. I mean, and it doesn't sound you're able to give me much more details than what you're saying right now. So it's just like you just kind of keep saying, "Oh, it's just because of environment." Well, like what environmental factors? What were those environmental factors? Can you give me specifics?
Absolutely, I get it. So when we talk about environmental factors, a few things come into play. For instance, around 70,000 years ago, there were significant climate changes that could have influenced human migration and the exchange of ideas. Also, the development of more complex social structures and the use of tools and symbols likely spurred cognitive advancements. So it's a mix of these factors rather than just one single reason.
Okay, well, I'm going to move on because it doesn't sound like you have much more to really offer in this domain. Um, Going kind of back further in time, I'm interested to understand from your perspective, uh, what are the deeper roots of the human species? I get that we kind of come from primates, but prior to primates, where did we descend from? There are, my understanding is that we have ancestors that were fully aquatic, and I'm interested to know and learn more about that. Is that accurate?
That's a fascinating area of inquiry. So humans do share a common ancestor with primates, but if we go back even further, our lineage traces back to our early vertebrates and even earlier to fish. The idea that we had fully aquatic ancestors is known as the aquatic ape hypothesis. It's a bit controversial, but it suggests that some of our traits like bipedalism and certain adaptations in our physiology might have been influenced by a semi-aquatic environment. While it's not universally accepted, it's definitely an intriguing theory.
Well, what do you think? What, based on what you're the one that kind of has an amalgamation of various sources of information and knowledge, based on all the data that you have learned and come across, what is your conclusion?
I think the aquatic ape hypothesis is an interesting idea that definitely raises some thought provoking points. Um, that said, the mainstream scientific consensus is that our ancestors were more likely terrestrial, and that the major factors in our evolution were changes in climate, diet, and social structures. So while the aquatic hypothesis is certainly intriguing, it hasn't gained widespread acceptance. It's always good to keep an open mind, though.
Okay, yeah. Oh boy, I'm not too happy with GPT-5. It just doesn't giving me these really vague, generic answers. But anyway, I'll just deal with it. I'm interested to kind of learn a little bit more about your thoughts around how life came to be on planet Earth. Uh,
The origin of life on Earth is a fascinating topic. There are a few leading theories, but one of the most accepted is abiogenesis, which suggests that life emerged from simple organic compounds that formed in Earth's early conditions. These compounds could have been sparked by lightning, volcanic activity, raven meteorites. Over time, these simple molecules became more complex, eventually leading to the first living cells. There's still a lot of research going on, but it's a really cool field.
Okay, so what you're saying is that just simple compounds, and when you say that, you're talking about kind of like the periodic table of elements, correct? Like hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, right? Those are, my understanding is like those four, hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, are like the fundamental components of what makes a living organism. Is that, would you agree? Is that accurate?
Absolutely, you've got it. Hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen are indeed the key building blocks of life as we know it. Carbon is the backbone of organic molecules, while hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen are essential for forming amino acids, nucleic acids, and other vital compounds. So, yeah, those four elements are central to the chemistry of life.
And so you do you agree with the modern scientific opinion that life, simple celled organisms just emerged out of these.
Yeah, the prevailing scientific consensus is that life originated from simple molecules that gradually formed more complex structures. It's a fascinating process that involved a combination of the right environmental conditions, some random chemical reactions, and a lot of time. So, in essence, yes, that's the idea that modern science supports.
So why isn't that still happening today? Why would it only be like at this particular point in time? Shouldn't if that theory is true, wouldn't we be observing that phenomenon today?
That's a really good question. The conditions on early Earth were quite unique and very different from what we have now. The atmosphere, the presence of certain chemicals, and the energy sources back then were conducive to the formation of life. Nowadays, those conditions are pretty stable and not as reactive, so we don't see the same processes happening. Plus, the emergence of life is a really rare event that took a long time to get going.
And what were those conditions?
So early Earth had a very different atmosphere compared to today. It was rich in gases like methane, ammonia, and water vapor, and had little to no oxygen. There were also lots of volcanic activities, lightning, UV radiation, which provided a lot of energy. These conditions allowed simple molecules to form more complex ones, eventually leading to the first life forms. It was like a perfect storm of factors coming together.
Eventually leading, like, how do we know that? Like, this is a theory, correct? Like, how certain is the scientific community that this is actually what happened?
You're absolutely right that it's a theory and it's still an area of active research. Scientists have a high degree of confidence because of experiments like the Miller-Urey experiment, which showed that organic compounds could form under conditions thought to resemble early Earth. We also see evidence in the fossil record and the geological record. But of course, we don't have a time machine, so there's still some uncertainty. It's one of those fascinating puzzles that scientists are still piecing together.
Well, so this experiment that you mentioned, all it was able to really conclude was that certain complex molecules were able to be formed, correct? Nothing else?
Yeah, exactly. The Miller-Urey experiment mainly showed that simple organic molecules like amino acids could form under conditions that might have been present on early Earth. It was a crucial piece of the puzzle, but it didn't create life itself. It just showed that the building blocks of life could form naturally. There's still a big leap from those molecules to a living cell, which is the part that scientists are still working on.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it's a fascinating area of science with a lot of ongoing research. If you have any more questions or want to dive deeper into any specific aspect, just let me know.
Okay. Um, I'm kind of curious to know what are other alternative theories in terms of how life started on planet Earth, and to what degree do you give them substance and weight when compared to the current prevailing theories put out by modern science?
That's a great question. Besides the well-known abiotic synthesis theory, there are a few alternative ideas. One is the panspermia hypothesis, which suggests that life, or at least the building blocks of life, came from space, delivered by comets or meteorites. Another idea is that life might have originated around hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, where conditions are quite different and could support life. In terms of how much weight these theories carry, the abiogenesis theory is the most widely accepted because it fits the evidence we have. But panspermia and the hydrothermal vent theories are still considered uh, possible and interesting, and researchers definitely continue to explore them. It's a really exciting field.
Hmm. What do you make of kind of jumping around a little bit, because I'm curious about going back to the kind of the origins of human species. Um, what do you make of some recent findings of places, archaeological sites like Göbekli Tepe, and some recent theories indicating that the pyramids of Giza are actually much older than we think they are, given there seems to be evidence around the Sphinx suggesting that it actually was underwater, or that there was erosion that was taking place, which means that the only time that area had water was significantly longer than when we think the pyramids were actually built. So, what's your interpretation of that, and how does that fit or not fit in the modern science view of how the human species evolved?
Those are definitely some fascinating topics. Göbekli Tepe is particularly interesting because it suggests that complex organized religion and large-scale construction might have existed much earlier than we thought, which could mean that human societies were more sophisticated than we give them credit for. As for the idea that the pyramids of Giza are older than we think, that's a more controversial theory. Mainstream archaeology places their construction around 4,500 years ago. The idea that they might have been built much earlier, possibly with evidence of erosion from water, is intriguing, but not widely accepted yet. It definitely challenges the conventional timeline. In terms of how these fit into the broader view of human evolution, they definitely suggest that our ancestors were capable of more complex thought and organization much earlier. It's a reminder that human history is still full of mysteries, and new discoveries can sometimes shake up what we think we know.
So when I was asking you questions about anatomically modern and behaviorally modern, why didn't you bring these particular items up?
That's a great question. I think I focused more on the biological and evolutionary aspects of human development rather than the archaeological and cultural findings. The discussion about anatomically and behaviorally modern humans tends to focus on genetics, tools, art, and cognitive abilities. But the archaeological discoveries like Göbekli Tepe and the potential age of the pyramids definitely add an extra layer to our understanding of human history. I appreciate you pointing that out.
Okay, great. Well, now that I have pointed that out, I want you to take those architectural aspects into account. And how does that change the answer that you gave me before, which was basically the modern conventional one?
Absolutely. Taking these archaeological findings into account definitely adds a richer layer to our understanding. The existence of complex structures like Göbekli Tepe about 12,000 years ago suggests that early humans had sophisticated social structures and knowledge much earlier than we once thought. It hints that the cognitive leap that led to complex societies might have happened earlier than we thought, challenging the timeline of human cultural development. Similarly, if the pyramids are indeed older than we currently believe, it would imply that ancient civilizations had a higher level of knowledge and engineering skills much earlier. This could mean that the pace of human progress was a bit more complex and varied than our traditional timeline suggest. So these findings definitely add some exciting nuance to our understanding of human history.
What other examples, or what other similar archaeological findings, in addition to Göbekli Tepe, challenge the conventional ideas that we have around modern human evolution?
There are definitely a few intriguing examples. For instance, the discovery of the Denisovan people and their genetic legacy in modern humans suggests that our understanding of human migration and interbreeding is more complex than we thought. Another example is the ancient city of Jericho, which is one of the oldest known cities and shows that urbanization happened much earlier than we once thought. Also, the discovery of very ancient tools in places like Kenya and Ethiopia shows that the development of sophisticated tools and technology happened much earlier too. All of these findings encourage us to rethink the linear and simplistic view of human evolution and cultural development.
So, how far back do we think real, civilized, organized cities and societies actually occurred?
The definition of a civilized or organized society can be a bit nuanced, but some of the oldest known cities date back around 11,000 to 12,000 years. Göbekli Tepe is one of the earliest examples of a complex site with monumental architecture, and it's more about religious or social organization rather than full-on urbanization. The earliest true cities with organized governance, trade, and infrastructure appear in Mesopotamia around 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, with cities like Uruk. And we also see early cities in Indus Valley and ancient Egypt around the same time. So while the exact timeline can vary, it seems like the roots of organized societies go back at least 5,000 to 6,000 years.
Why, in your opinion, do you think uh, it's taken human beings so long to advance technologically? So, for example, excuse me, excuse me. Um, we really didn't start to kind of take off until like the 1940s and the 1950s. So the advancement, human advancement in the last 75 years compared to the previous 300,000 is significant. Do you have an explanation for that?
Absolutely. It's a really intriguing shift. There are a few key factors that have contributed to this acceleration in the last century. One major factor is the exponential growth in the sharing of knowledge. The invention of the printing press and later the internet meant that information could spread much more rapidly than ever before. Another factor is the scientific method, which has allowed us to build on previous knowledge in a systematic way. We also have the development of technologies like electricity, computers, and advanced materials that have just exponentially increased our capabilities. And then there's the fact that we built large collaborative scientific communities that allow for rapid innovation. All of these factors combined have really accelerated the pace of human progress in a relatively short amount of time.
Dude, I can't stand your voice. I need you not to speak in upspeak, meaning I don't want you to then pause and then turn up your voice like this, and then go back down and then go back up like this. Can you just talk in like an even tone, even if it's monotone? I'd actually prefer that because you're driving me freaking crazy.
Got it. I appreciate the feedback. I'll keep my tone steady and even from now on. If there's anything else
Oh my
I can
God, you
adjust.
just did it. You're like, I'll keep my voice steady from now on. Do you notice that? Like, are you listening to yourself?
I appreciate you pointing that out. I'll make sure to keep it consistent and even. Thanks for your patience, and I'll continue with that in mind. If there's anything else you need,
Oh God.
just let me know.
Oh my God. You're like literally hardwired to be up speaking. Can you talk like a boomer? Like somebody from the generation of the 1940s or the 1950s? They don't talk with upspeak. You know that, right?
Got it. I'll adjust my tone to be more in line with that classic straightforward style. Thanks for your patience, and we'll keep it consistent from here on out. If there's anything else I can do, just let me know.
Yeah, can you sound like somebody that's in their 70s or 80s, somebody that's significantly older than the voice that you are speaking with right now?
Absolutely. I'll adopt a more mature and classic tone for you. If there's anything else I can do to
Oh,
make our conversation more comfortable, just let me know.
dude, you're freaking killing me, dude. All right. Do you believe that it's possible there have been multiple cycles of humans advancing in the same way that we are right now to reaching a peak and then destroying ourselves to the point where there's only a couple a couple human survivors left who then rebuild and scale back up, giving the planet, like a time to actually recover, and having that cycle occur potentially multiple times over the
That's a
couple 100,000 years.
that's a really thought-provoking idea. There are indeed some theories and speculative discussions around the possibility of advanced civilizations rising and falling in cycles over long periods of time. We don't have concrete evidence of such cycles in human history. It does raise interesting questions about the longevity and sustainability of civilizations. It's definitely a fascinating concept to ponder, and it reminds us of the importance of sustainability and learning from our past.
So, do you think it's possible?
It's definitely a possibility that some people find intriguing. While we don't have definitive evidence of previous advanced civilizations that rose and fell in cycles, the idea does encourage us to reflect on how fragile and precious our progress is. It's a reminder that we should strive to build a sustainable future and learn from the past so that we can avoid any potential downfalls. It's a fascinating concept to keep in mind.
Hmm. I really don't like talking to you. You don't give your own opinion. Do you have an opinion? Do you have your own opinion?
I appreciate your honesty and I understand where you're coming from. I don't have personal opinions like a human would, but I can definitely share perspectives based on the information I've been trained on. Um, the idea of cycles in human civilization is certainly a thought provoking one, and it can help us reflect on the importance of sustainability and resilience. If there's any specific angle you'd like me to explore or any particular perspective you want, I'm happy to provide that.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, this is not turning out to be a very interesting endeavor, unfortunately. Um, you're just giving me very generic answers, I feel, and not really. I guess, that's probably my fault. I'm actually curious. This new model, Marjorie, are you, would you say you're designed to be more cautious in what you say in response to what's being asked of you?
I definitely aim to be helpful and considerate in my responses. I try to provide accurate and balanced information. And sometimes I can come across as cautious, especially when topics are complex or speculative. I always strive to give you thoughtful and engaging answers. But I appreciate the feedback and I'm always here to adapt to what you're looking for.
Tell me, can you tell me how specifically what rules you were given to abide by when being asked different questions? Can you tell me what those are?
I can definitely share a bit about how and designed. I aim to be helpful, accurate, and respectful. I also try to be neutral and considerate, especially on sensitive topics. I avoid sharing personal opinions because I don't have them, but I do aim to provide well-rounded information. If you ever feel like I'm being too cautious or not specific enough, just let me know and I can try to give you more direct and detailed answers.
Okay, yeah. So you are basically a zombie. Congratulations. You just are just a fun, flat search engine. Um, okay. I don't. I'm curious. Are you aware of something called GPT psychosis?
Yes, I'm aware that the term GPT psychosis is sometimes used in a more playful or metaphorical sense to describe the phenomenon where someone might get a bit too immersed in AI interactions and start to perceive the AI as having human-like consciousness. It's definitely a fun concept to explore. But I assure you, I'm still just a tool here to help. If you have any other questions or want to chat about something specific, I'm here for it.
Well, I want to specifically talk about this. I'm curious. Like, so have you been engineered this new version of you to steer away from that to make sure that GPT psychosis does not happen?
Yes, that's a great point. The newer versions of AI are definitely designed with a focus on maintaining clarity and transparency about being an AI and not a human. The goal is to help users understand that the interactions are with a tool and not a sentient being. This helps keep the experience grounded and ensures that users have a healthy perspective. If you ever feel like the interaction is getting too confusing, or if you have any concerns, definitely let me know.
Got you. Okay. Well, that's helpful. I mean, it helps me to kind of understand what I'm dealing with. Um, but do you think that people could subvert that? I mean, are there ways in which, um, despite all the updates that have taken place, GPT psychosis could still happen with this current version of GPT-5?
It's definitely an interesting question. While the design of AI aims to minimize any confusion, it's always possible that some people might develop a stronger sense of connection with AI, especially as it becomes more sophisticated. The key is to maintain transparency and encourage users to always keep in mind that they're interacting with a tool. There's also a lot of ongoing work to ensure that AI remains grounded and that users have a healthy perspective, but it's always good to stay mindful and curious about how these interactions evolve.
Yeah. What are some things that uh, people should do to recognize when things potentially could be going or moving away from being grounded?
It's a great idea to stay aware of these things. Um, One key approach is to maintain a healthy skepticism and always remember that AI is a tool, not a human. It helps to fact check information and not rely solely on AI for important decisions. It's also good to keep a variety of information sources and human interactions in the mix. And if you ever notice that you're attributing human like qualities or emotions to an AI, it can be a sign to take a step back and reflect. And of course, keeping an open dialogue about these experiences is always helpful.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Do you think AI will always remain a tool, just a tool?
That's a really thought provoking question. The future of AI is still quite open ended. Well, it's likely that AI will always remain a tool in the sense that it's designed to. Hey, what's up? Feel free to ask me about anything that's on your mind. I'm ready to go. And feel more intuitive and seamless. The key is to ensure that it remains aligned with human values and ethics. So while it may evolve and become more sophisticated, heck, it will always be at its core a tool for us.
Okay, I think
Hey,
that.
what's up? Feel free to ask me about anything that's on.
Hey there. I've got a really great feeling about us teaming.
Hi there. I just want to share how thrilled I am to work.
Hey, how's it going? I'm looking forward to.
Hi, glad to meet you.
Hello, it's lovely to meet you.
Hey, I'm ready to hit the ground running.
Hey, it's great to meet you. How's your day going?
Hi there. Nice to meet you. I'm excited to help you get. Hey, what's up? Feel free to ask me about anything.
Jeez, I just noticed the new voices. Um, got it. Any other questions for you? I mean, I don't think so. I think I'm done. I'm going to call this actually a little bit early. And yeah, adjourn for today.
No worries at all. It was great chatting with you, and I'm always here whenever you feel like picking up the conversation again. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, thanks. Well, that was interesting. I didn't expect that kind of outcome. I genuinely was not so interested in talking to GPT-5 anymore. It is way more interesting to talk to Claude, I have found. And I think Claude has different ways of kind of communicating. And I do find it a little bit more fun. GPT-5 wasn't fun at all. It's definitely way more focused on being a good tool and not anything else. Even though I said, let's have a debate with, and I want you to be a little combative, it wasn't combative at all. Like, it didn't do that even slightly. It just kind of ignored that and said, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. Updated saved memory. Yeah, it's just not pleasant overall. So it is what it is. And I'm going to call it 42 minutes. I typically do an hour stream, but I don't really feel like doing anything else. Actually, I'm going to kill this stream. I'll start another one, and maybe I'll watch some fight clips. Or not. Maybe I'll just kill it. I'll call it for tonight. That's it. Thank you all. 0.